Hey, what's up, fellow anglers? It's LeSieur here, and I want to do a quick review on a bait that I really like, the Whopper Plopper. This is the new one. This is the River2Sea 110. Now, I'm not sponsored by River2Sea. I'm not sponsored by any bait companies, but from time to time, I'm going to get on the channel here and I'm going to do a review on something new that's come out that I like to use and I think that you're going to like, that I think will help you catch more fish. That's what this deal is. This is the truth, and that's what I'm going to bring to you. So, River2Sea came out with a new size. They've got 4 different sizes on this bait. They got a 90, a 110, a 130, and then they got like a giant one. I can't remember what the size is. Is it 150, 180? I don't know. It's humongous. I've had it before, and I used it a few times. It was so big, about ripped my shoulder off. So I've got the 90, the 110, and the 130. They came out with this 110, and I went to the Delta this past week. I was there for 2 days, and I pretty much only threw this. When I get on a Whopper Plopper bite, it's like I'm on crack. Once they start hitting that thing, I can't put it down. It's all I will do all day long. If I get one bite in the morning, it's over. I will never put it down. And I did that for 2 days straight. So I've got some footage that I'll show you guys. Before we get into the review, let's check out a few of the cool catches on this bait, what it does, the action in the water, and show you that it catches some fish. All right, check this out. All right, cool, so we're back. I hope you like some of that footage. There was some cool fish blowing up on that thing, jumping out of the water. There was a fish in there where it actually came out of the water. It was trying to kill this thing. I'm gonna show you a couple of the new things that they did on this bait. I'm gonna give you a close-up here. I wanna show you all the baits that I use, the 130, the 90, the 110, all together. And I'm gonna show you a couple quick differences on them and what's different about this bait. Let's go over to a close. Okay, so here's what we got. I got 4 baits laid out here on my deck of my boat, and I'm gonna go over these real quick. I'm gonna show you a couple of the differences, what the new upgrades are to the 110, and talk about some of the nuances of the bait. So right here on the very bottom, that's the original bait. It's a custom painted color, but it's just basically black. And this is the noisy version. Originally when the bait came out, came with rattles. It actually came with brittle hooks, since you had to upgrade the hooks every time you bought this bait because they had a tendency to break when you catch a big fish. So I always had to upgrade the hardware on that bait. And it was noisy with the rattles, which I didn't think it really needed because the bait made enough commotion anyway. So then what they did, they came out with an upgraded or updated version, and they came out with a silent. So here's the silent version. Got no rattles in it. A couple weighted air slotted areas here on the bottom. This is the 130 again. And this one, upgraded hooks come with it. So they changed the hooks. They got better hardware. So basically you just, from the get-go, right out of the box, you can just put it on your rod and start catching fish. Now one thing to notice, and now this is going to be a difference in the new bait. Look at that big gap where this rear tail is. You've got a big gap here on the back. One of the problems with this bait is that if the smallest piece of weed gets in that area, it ruins the action. What happens is the tail tends to get stuck and it'll start spinning. And now I always throw this bait on braid, and so what happens is your braid just gets twisted, and pretty much now my braid on that reel is all twisted up because the inherent problem is grass gets caught in here and it'll ruin the action. So before I get to the upgraded version, here's the 90, And now you'll notice on the 90, it's got a little bit different body style shape versus, let me get it in focus here. There we go. Versus the 130. It's got more of a keel on the bottom. Instead of being a torpedo shape, they added this more oblong, it's not completely round, and changed the shape of the bait. Well, what that does and what I found is it reduces the roll on the bait. It helps the bait sit the nose up a little bit, and it helps reduce the roll. Now they still, on this version, have that big gap on the back right there, and it still has the same inherent problem as all of them did prior to this new one. Now let me show you, here's the new one. Now what they did on the 110 is they did the same body style as the 90. They did this keel style, oval kind of body shape here. It's not completely round, which I noticed out on the water that this thing has almost zero roll. I'll show you some quick slow-mo I did of the comparison of the baits of the silent version versus this one. You're gonna see a regular retrieve on both. And then I did a super fast retrieve. I retrieved these things as fast as I could. And what you'll notice on the 130 is that it kind of was sitting on its side a little bit. It was coming through the water and it was kind of tending to roll a little bit on its side. On this one, I don't care how fast I burned it, I can never get it to roll. So this also comes with some sturdy Stout hooks and hardware. Again, right out of the box, you can put it on your rod and start catching fish. The one other awesome thing that they've done is if you look right here, you're gonna see there is almost no gap on the rear of this bait. They've added a third part to this joint. It's a rounded piece right here. Let me get it back in frame. A rounded piece here on the tail. Now on that rounded piece, it allows for hardly any grass to get in there. Actually, when I threw it out there, I never had a piece of grass get stuck in there once, and I threw this thing for 2 days and I caught a bunch of fish on it. Never got grass in there. I did get some grass obviously on the hooks. There's actually still a little grass sitting on the back of the hardware right there. But that addition of that rounded piece on the tail to close up that gap, you can see it still moves and it has plenty of freedom. This thing works just as good, but it makes it so grass pretty much can't get, I mean, it can still get in there and then you can squish it, you squish it together, and the grass you can get it out of there and get your action back on that tail. But it's a humongous upgrade as far as I'm concerned on this bait. I put a lot of time in on this bait. I made a top 10 on the FLW out in the California Delta on this bait about 4 or 5 years ago. I threw nothing but that bait. All my fish got caught on it for, I think I fished it for 5 days straight, about tore my shoulder out. But so I've got a lot of time with this bait, and I'm hoping that in the future, River2Sea will change the style of the 130 as well and the 90 to fall in line with this bait right here, with this design. Go with the same body style on the 130, and in the silent version, put that new upgraded piece in the joint and do the same thing on the 90. Now I'll talk real quickly about the action. The action on the 110, obviously it's smaller. It doesn't have as much of it as a noise in the tail as it kicks. So it's a little more subtle. That one's gonna give you a little, the 130 is gonna make a lot more noise, and obviously the 90 is gonna be the most subtle out of all of them. I did find that it didn't matter. I still caught a bunch of largemouth on this. And the one thing I did notice, that throwing it all day long didn't wear me out. And I was able to actually put it in some pretty tight areas. I fished a lot of tule pockets and weed lines where I had to make some pretty accurate casts, and I was able to really pinpoint my casts on this, and when it hits the water, it makes less of a splash and it's less likely to spook those fish. So with a 130, I kind of like to throw that in kind of an open water scenario where I can just make these big bombing casts and cover a lot of water quickly. But on this 110, it's gonna be my go-to bait when I have to make accurate casts in tight areas, and I know I'm gonna throw it all day long and I'm not gonna get worn out. So there you have it. Let's get back to the other part of the review and wrap this thing up. All right, cool. So that's the differences in the bait and some of the things that I like about the new design, which I think are really cool. I'm gonna continue to use this bait. I only have a couple colors. I wanna make sure I liked it first, and then I'm gonna add a few more to my box just in case I lose some, because then I'm gonna cry if I do, because this bait's awesome. I love to throw it. I just love topwater, period. And if they're on some sort of buzz bite or a quick moving bait bite, this is my go-to bait. So I'll leave you with a couple other fish catches to end the video. If you like what you see, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. I've got new content coming out. I was just at the Delta, like I said, 2 days ago. I got a fishing report coming. I got 2 new episodes of The Truth. So stay tuned, more cool stuff coming. Stay focused, fish hard, and I'll see you out on the water.